Welcome to this tutorial on how to use the video recording feature inside of Wings. Now this won't be a comprehensive tutorial, but more like a follow along as I set up a bit of a clip, and so you can pick stuff up as we go along. Now we have a racetrack here, and we have a few planes that have flown on this racetrack, and we're going to just do a recording of the first lap. We think that'll be pretty good to start with. Now you'll see here we have a race start icon and a lap 1 icon. This shows when the race starts, so when the buzzer went, and this shows when they actually passed through the start gate. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually have it so it looks like a real race, and so we want to have each one of the race starts all lined up with each other. So we're going to just do it manually and get it pretty close, and then we have a tool that will align them all for us. Now, you don't need to actually align. You can align all the race starts with the first time they pass through a gate if you want to make it look like a much closer race. And so we can slide through the timeline. You can see all the planes coming through here. But I'm going to now set the timeline up pretty close to where all the race starts are, and I click this button that says Align Race Starts here. You see now they all start. So this is where they all were when the buzzer went. So you'll see we have a couple that actually really nailed this start, and a few that are a bit worse. And you'll see that's the case. All right, so now we also have the camera is how we're going to film it. And that's over here. I've got it selected, and you can see up here in the preview window is what the camera is seeing as I move it around the scene. So we then need to decide how we want to actually film our shot. So I think a good starting position might actually be maybe looking. I think maybe coming down to. I should have thought of this before we did the tutorial. I think actually coming down like this might be the way to go, kind of following these guys down. So I can actually align the camera to my view by clicking this button, and you'll see it's now showing the same view that I have here. I want it to be a bit closer in. It's a bit too wide angle for my tastes here. So I can actually click and drag, or I can type in a number, and I can get a value that looks good for me. And I think something like that might be quite nice. Okay. And now we've got to think about where we want it to be and where we want to finish. So get the camera, and this is where your directorial skills will really come in play as you frame everything up. I'm going to go a little bit left as well, so it's a bit more centered on the gate. Now we can turn on this little hash to give you some guides to make sure things are lined up as you would. Cool. So now what we do is we go insert, and that will actually insert a frame for the camera. Now the camera has lost its angle, but no worries, we can just bring that back in to be about what we want. And now I can just come to update, and that will actually update that camera. Alright, so now we can actually slide forward our timer, because that's where it hits the start. I'm going to push forward a little bit further, and then I want the next camera shot to actually be here. So we're going to go and slide this in, because that's kind of the look we're going to be aiming for. But I'm going to just move it. Yeah, I think that's going to be a good start. And I can go insert and put it there. Now, if we just slide our timeline, you'll see the camera pops from one to the next. We want the camera to transition. So we can actually come to our first keyframe and change it from static. And here we can actually change the trajectory of the camera. So whether it eases in, eases out, both, or just linear. We'll keep it linear right now. And we'll go update because we've made updates to the camera. You can see here that we have the color gradient here, showing that this one is a transition, and the next one's going to be a pop. So that's going to work straight in. So now we can look at our camera, and I'm looking up here right now, just to keep an eye on what's going on. Now I can make this bigger or smaller. Also, if you do have a second monitor, in the main menu, you can set this up to be on your second monitor, which can give you more real estate to work in. And so I think that's a really good starting clip. Showing the planes dropping in. Now, up ahead, we're going to have a next camera position. And I think it'll feel nice to be like a spectator, kind of going zoom as the cameras fly past with all these flags in the way. So once again, I'm going to align camera to view, and I'm going to insert. That way we have a camera space, and you'll see we have these different icons showing up. This actually means that they are close to each other, and if you hold Shift and drag it, it won't go past the other ones. They're butted up against each other, which is quite nice. Now with this one, because we're not going to actually be moving the camera, but we want the camera to follow these few planes, I'm actually going to change it to a look at. So if I turn on handheld, that makes it actually just kind of wiggle about a little bit as if you're holding onto it. But with this rotation, I'm going to choose to look at object or look at group. Now I'm going to pick to look at object, and we realize which one we want. We want kind of, I think we'll pick the yellow one. A little bit behind, but that'll kind of center up this little group here as they come flying through. And now if we just kind of drag the timeline forward, whoop, I didn't actually save that. So look at object, yellow, and update that. So that way the keyframe is updated. So our clip is going to start off, they're flying down. And now it's going to cut through this camera, which you see the camera is just kind of rotating. And we can even see the camera in the world doing it as well. So it's rotating, looking at these guys flying through as they get past the next gate. And this could just watch the whole way, right? But we want to have multiple cameras in this clip, and so actually I'm going to move this camera, and you'll see right now the orientation of the camera is so pointing directly through the camera. So this is the local orientation. I'm going to take it to world space, and that allows me to move the camera like directly up and down X and Y, Z as we need to. So I'm going to move it a bit further along. I think that'll be a bit cooler. So we put it there, update, and I'll go back to local space. I like the camera a lot of times in local space. And so now we get this a bit further away, and that looks good. And I think as I get to about here, so they're kind of gone through that the gate, and they're kind of climbing the hill. We're going to insert another keyframe, but let's try to decide what kind of camera look we want. I think an onboard shot, an FPV shot, might look pretty good here. Or actually, a reverse shot, I think, looking back, might be kind of nice. No, we'll save that shot for later. Look, as you can see, I'm making this up as I go along. So I'm going to just align the camera here, insert to give me a new keyframe, and you'll notice that it's black here because we just want the previous one to not move, and we just want to transition at the keyframe. And so now I'm actually going to remove the look at because I want it to just be absolute, but I want the parent to be the blue guy. And you'll see we've got a line indicating that you're parented to this one. And I'll just update that just to lock it in. Let's actually, I'm going to make so it's locked into this one, and we'll look at the object too. So we'll look at blue as well. And so it's actually kind of have him at the bottom of the camera, bottom of the frame. So turn on handheld, so it makes it feel like it's rocking and rolling with the wind. And yeah, so we can just follow this for a bit, and that's what we're going to get as the planes are racing. It's kind of tracking it along quite nicely. All right, so we're going to get further along, and so we can see our planes that are, I think, zipping around this corner is a good shot. And as they line up for this Immelmann, we can change our camera angle again. So maybe we get a shot from in front, and this shot can follow them as they climb to the sky. So we're gonna insert a new spot. Parent, we're gonna make it none. That way it's oriented, it's locked to the world, so it doesn't follow them. But we can keep looking at light blue. That'll be fine. And just make sure everything is up, because we need to actually set it to our location right now, and update that. And now we can see it tracking the planes and seeing them climb. I think that's a pretty good movement. So it's following them, which is nice as well. It's got the handheld on it as well, so there's adds a little bit of shake to it, just to make it a little less robotic. So it feels like there's someone standing there on the field getting this shot. Look, I'm going to come back to this, come back to you later when I've added a few more shots in, and we can go from there. Talk to you soon. Okay, so I've set up all our race with all the different keyframes, and I'm going to show you through in a second. But right now I'm going to show you how we finish up and show the end of the race. Set the timeline to where we want the recording to finish, and we can hit the button down here, which is the set render end frame. And then we can actually scroll back to the start, and we can even set the start frame. Right now it's starting at 0, 0, but we might think that's a bit too early, and so we might find actually at this frame we want to start it off. So we can start frame here, and you see the yellow bar in the timeline showing up, indicating which part is going to be rendered out when we're finally done. Now I'm going to show you through the show you some of the shots I've made, some of the decisions I've made, and you'll see just in this one lap I've got quite a few changes, so it should be kind of high energetic action video. Now you'll see icons like this, and this is contact. This is when there is a crash of some kind. So in this case, you're going to see what happened to blue, to dark blue. But so we can look up here in the top left, and I'm going to press spacebar, and you can just play it. So the camera is just looking at them there. Now we're chasing. It's looking good. Get into the Immelmann. We're going to change the camera angle again. We have a bunch of different camera changes all through, trying to get different shots, trying to find interesting shots to look at. And that's what happened to blue just there. Runs into the excavator. And because we started the races all at the same time, this is how close the racing was in real person, in real time. And we can adjust that later on to make it look a bit closer than it was. However, you'll realize that that one lap is incredibly close, and it actually is a photo finish, and I'll show you in a second. But yeah, you got it, and he's going to land it just across the water, and very nice. So that's what the and spacebar just to stop playing it. Yeah, so we actually show you how close this race was, like this. That's how close the race finish was, with the pink one being just a nose in front, which is absolutely crazy for such a short race. Now what we can do is we can actually set the trail color. If you haven't got a trail color come in with the planes already, we can actually set the trail color here. So in this case, we're going to set the first guy, and I'm going to try to match them up with the colors that are in the kind of already automatically assigned to it when you import them. I think that'll be nice, but we can adjust these as we go in case you want to have a bit more separation, because like red and pink can sometimes be a bit close together. But let's have a look. What do we got here? This dark blue. That's kind of a deep purple, and this is like a light pink. And so now when we see them actually flying around, you'll see the different colored trails. It'll make it a lot easier for people to spot. Now make sure you save as you go. I think like with every project, on any file, you want to make sure you don't want to lose anything in the case of a crash. Now we can actually turn off trails if you don't want trails at all. I want to turn off the pilot name, the flag, and the triangle. So right now we can keep the speed underneath. But actually, you know what? I'm going to remove them too. So only identifiable features is going to be the trail as these are flying along. If you are flying with your friends and each person does send a say the race in, you'll actually have each person's pilot name. You can have that underneath the planes, um, which is kind of nice in case you want to know who is who. Yeah, so this is in pretty good space. I'm pretty happy with how things is looking, and now we're going to render it. So we're going to come to our render button down the bottom here, and you'll notice it automatically has populated our frames over here because this is what we've already set when we set the start and end frames on our timeline. And now you can change the location to be where you like. Output FPS, I recommend doing it at 60, and if you can, I recommend Ultra. Even on weak computers, we have tested it. It does a pretty good job rendering at Ultra. It does take a lot longer, but this allows you to get the best quality images. So now I'm going to render the selected frames, which is the whole animation. These are the selected frames, and then so it's at 1080p. Once that's done, I will come back. See you in a bit. Okay, so we now have hundreds and hundreds of frames of footage from our video that we've exported. We're going to be exporting this into our video editor, but before we do that, if you just wanted to add music over the top of it, then you can skip this step. But if you want to include the audio to hear the planes zooming by, we can actually use something like Audacity for that. So Audacity is an audio recording program, and we're able to capture the audio from the game by playing it and record it with Audacity. We don't have a way of exporting the audio directly from Wings, but you can do it through Audacity without any problems. So first up, you want to make sure this is set to the last option here, Windows WAS AD, I think is what it finishes, and then set it to your default headset or speakers that you have. That way it's going to record the audio from your computer. So now I'm going to hit record on this. But we want to be in the rendering page here. By hitting play, it will actually just play through the all the frames. So I'm going to hit record. I move it off my screen. So recording. Okay, and so we are now good to go. So you'll see the fact that we will need to trim this up, but we can just save this as an MP3 and import it into our software, and I'll see you in a second. I am inside of DaVinci Resolve. There are a number of free video editors out there, but this is the one that I quite like. It makes things pretty easy. Now to show you how we're going to get all of our images and make a complete video out of it, we're going to select all of them. So just Control A, we can drag if you like, and then just drag that, all 3,719, into the media pool, and you'll see it puts it automatically as one file. So this is our movie. We can drop it straight on the timeline. Now this isn't a tutorial of DaVinci Resolve, but we'll go through some of the features just to get this set up. And nice and smooth now. Okay, so we want to bring in our audio recording. So I've just dragged in our audio recording from my file. Had to go look for it. Sorry about that. And we can just drop that on the timeline. Now the challenge will be lining it up. So we want to look for some simple things that'll make it easy for us to work out where we need to line this up, because we're going to have a bit at the front and the end that we're not going to need. So times when there's an audio cut can line when there's a camera cut. We know there's one right near the end that should make things pretty easy just before they come through the start finish line. So I'm just kind of looking at the images here. I'm going to scroll back through. So this is as they're about to come through the line. But this, like, I can hear the audio of this camera starting because we can hear the air pump, air compressor for the inflatable. So we're going to go back to when this camera starts, because we want to line this up with that moment. Whoop, I can't slide it over because I got to cut off some at the front. Great. So now audio is aligned, which is great. I can actually come to the end here and trim off the audio at the back, so I don't need that. Okay. So by the way, before we started this, I should have mentioned we want to go to File and Project Settings, and you want to make sure that here your frame rate is set to 60 frames a second. Video format, I've got to 1080p 60. Playback rate is 60. You can have this lower if your computer is struggling, but this is something you definitely want to have because we exported it at 60 frames a second. So this is going to make things a lot easier for you to handle. So now we come over here to Deliver, and this is where we set file name and location. If you are just sharing this with your friends, go right ahead. If you are wanting to put it on YouTube, we recommend you actually bump it up so Ultra HD. What this does is actually dedicate a higher bitrate on YouTube, and you're going to get a much better image. Even if people only view it at 1080p, it's going to look a lot better. The grass is not going to wig out and cause some problems for it. So we're going to just call this something simple, like, well, the name of the track is Fairway Fun. So we'll call it Fairway Fun, Strata Surfer Race. Let's make it a all underscores. We choose a location, add to render queue, and start render. And that's how you create a video. And we'll pop it on YouTube. You'll also see this video. It will be linked in the comments in case you want to see what the final one looks like. Thanks for joining us on this tutorial series. Stay tuned as we do some more updates, and we look forward to seeing your recordings. Bye.